Hey everyone, welcome back to Buried Truth Project. Today we're diving into one of the most revolutionary moments in tech history, the secret story behind Apple's first iPhone. This isn't just about a phone launch. This is about impossible deadlines, internal battles, a device that didn't actually work during its famous unveiling, and how Steve Jobs bet Apple's entire future on a product that almost failed. The full story is far more dramatic than you ever imagined. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our deep dives into tech history and incredible true stories. Alright, let's jump in. Let's start with where Apple was in 2005, because understanding their situation explains why the iPhone was such a desperate gamble. In 2005, Apple was doing well, but not great. The iPod had been a massive success, dominating the portable music player market. But Steve Jobs knew the iPod's days were numbered. Cell phone manufacturers were starting to add music players to their phones. Why would people carry both an iPod and a phone when they could carry just one device? Jobs saw the threat clearly. If Apple didn't create a phone, someone else would create a phone with a music player and the iPod would become obsolete. Apple had to act, but they had a problem. They'd never made a phone before and knew nothing about the telecommunications industry. Here's what most people don't know. Apple actually explored partnering with Motorola first. In 2005, Apple and Motorola released the Rocker E1, a phone that could play iTunes music. It was supposed to be the iPhone before the iPhone, but it was a disaster. Ugly, slow, limited to only 100 songs, and almost nobody bought it. Jobs was furious. He realized that partnering with phone manufacturers wouldn't work. If Apple wanted a revolutionary phone, they'd have to build it themselves, even though they had zero experience making phones. In early 2005, Jobs called a secret meeting with Apple's top executives and engineers. He told them, "We're going to make a phone, and it's going to be the best phone ever made." The team was excited but also terrified because they had no idea how to do it. Jobs laid out his vision. The phone would have a large touchscreen with no physical keyboard. It would run a real operating system, not the limited software that flip phones used. It would have a real web browser, real email, real applications. It would be an iPod, a phone, and an internet device all in one. The engineers thought he was crazy. Touchscreens in 2005 were terrible, slow, inaccurate, and frustrating to use. Smartphones like the BlackBerry used physical keyboards because touchscreens weren't good enough. Battery technology couldn't support a large screen and powerful processor. The technology Jobs wanted didn't exist yet. But Jobs didn't care. He gave them an impossible deadline. The iPhone had to be ready to announce in January 2007, less than 2 years away. In the phone industry, developing a new phone typically took 3 to 4 years. Apple had to do it in half that time. The project was top secret. Apple divided the team into small groups, each working on different parts of the phone without knowing what the other groups were doing. Employees had to sign additional confidentiality agreements. Some engineers were told they were working on a new iPod, not realizing they were actually building the iPhone. Here's where it gets really interesting. Apple had 2 competing teams working on different iPhone concepts simultaneously. One team, led by Tony Fadell, who created the iPod, wanted to build the phone by modifying the iPod. They called it the iPod phone, basically an iPod with phone capabilities added. The other team, led by Scott Forstall, wanted to shrink down Mac OS X and put it on a phone. This was much more ambitious, putting a full computer operating system on a tiny handheld device. It seemed impossible, but it would make the iPhone far more powerful than any other phone. Jobs let both teams compete for months before making a decision. In 2006, he chose Forstall's approach. The iPhone would run a version of Mac OS X. This decision made the iPhone revolutionary, but also made it much harder to build. Now came the really hard part, actually building the thing. And here's a secret that wasn't revealed until years later. The iPhone that Steve Jobs demonstrated in January 2007 barely worked. It was essentially a prototype held together with duct tape and prayers. The touchscreen didn't work reliably. The software crashed constantly. The phone couldn't consistently make calls. Engineers had to create multiple demo units, each one programmed to perform specific parts of the presentation, because no single unit could do everything Jobs needed to demonstrate. Jobs spent weeks rehearsing the presentation, following an exact script that engineers had programmed into the demo units. If he deviated from the script even slightly, the phone might crash. If he pressed icons in the wrong order, the software might freeze. The entire presentation was a carefully choreographed performance designed to hide how unfinished the iPhone actually was. Here's how precarious it was. Engineers created a golden path through the demo, a specific sequence of actions that they knew would work. Jobs had to follow this path exactly. Tap this icon, wait 2 seconds, swipe here, tap there, in that precise order, or risk the phone crashing in front of millions of viewers. The night before the presentation, the iPhone demo units were still crashing. Engineers worked through the night, tweaking code, adjusting timing, desperately trying to make the demos stable enough for the presentation. They weren't sure it would work even as Jobs walked on stage. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto the stage at Macworld in San Francisco and delivered what many consider the greatest product presentation in tech history. He started by saying, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." Jobs explained that smartphones weren't smart and they weren't easy to use. He mocked the BlackBerry and other phones with their tiny screens and physical keyboards. Then he revealed the iPhone, a device with a 3.5-inch touchscreen, no keyboard, and a completely new way to interact with technology. The audience was mesmerized as Jobs demonstrated scrolling through contacts by flicking his finger, zooming into photos by pinching, and browsing real websites with a full web browser. These gestures seem obvious now, but in 2007, they were revolutionary. Nobody had seen anything like it. Jobs demonstrated making calls, playing music, browsing photos, checking email, and using Google Maps. The iPhone could do everything, and it did it all on one beautiful touchscreen device. The audience gave him a standing ovation. Tech blogs exploded with excitement. The iPhone was instantly the most anticipated product in tech. But here's what the audience didn't know. The iPhone Jobs was holding was barely functional. According to engineers who were there, they were terrified throughout the entire presentation, watching nervously, praying the demo units wouldn't crash.
After the presentation, Apple had 6 months to turn those barely working prototypes into a real product that customers could actually buy. And that's when the real crisis began. The iPhone was supposed to launch in June 2007, but in early 2007, the phone still didn't work properly. The touchscreen was unreliable. The software crashed frequently. Battery life was terrible. Making phone calls, the most basic function, was inconsistent. Engineers worked insane hours, often sleeping at the office. Steve Jobs was involved in every detail, demanding perfection. He would reject designs for tiny details that most people would never notice. He made teams redo work over and over until it met his standards. Here's one famous example. Jobs hated the plastic screen on the prototype iPhones. Plastic scratched easily, which meant after a few months in your pocket with keys, the screen would look terrible. He demanded a glass screen, even though nobody had ever mass-produced glass screens for phones. Apple partnered with Corning to develop Gorilla Glass, a special strengthened glass that was scratch-resistant and relatively shatterproof. Corning had to build an entire factory to produce enough glass for the iPhone launch. Then there was the keyboard problem. Without a physical keyboard, people would have to type on the touchscreen. But touchscreen keyboards in 2007 were terrible, slow, and full of typos. Apple needed to invent a better way. The solution was autocorrect and predictive text that actually worked well. Apple's engineers created software that predicted what word you were trying to type and automatically corrected mistakes. It seems simple now, but in 2007, this was revolutionary technology. Another crisis, AT&T, Apple's exclusive carrier partner, was demanding that Apple follow standard phone industry practices. They wanted AT&T's logo on the phone and AT&T approval for software updates. Jobs refused everything. This was Apple's phone, not AT&T's. The negotiations were brutal. AT&T had never given a phone manufacturer this much control before. But Jobs held firm. Either AT&T accepted Apple's terms, or Apple would find another carrier. Eventually, AT&T gave in, setting a precedent that would change the entire phone industry. On June 29, 2007, the iPhone went on sale. People lined up outside Apple stores for days before launch, camping out to be among the first to own one. When the stores opened, thousands rushed in to buy iPhones. It was a cultural phenomenon. The first iPhone cost $499 for the 4GB model and $599 for the 8GB model. Incredibly expensive for a phone in 2007. Despite the high price, Apple sold 270,000 iPhones in the first 30 hours and 1 million in the first 74 days. But that first iPhone was missing features that seem essential today. It didn't have 3G internet, only slow 2G. It couldn't record video. It didn't have an app store. It didn't have copy and paste. The camera was only 2 megapixels. Critics pointed out all these limitations, but it didn't matter. The iPhone's revolutionary touchscreen interface made all its competitors look ancient. Within months, every phone manufacturer was trying to copy the iPhone. The impact on competitors was devastating. BlackBerry dismissed the iPhone as a toy that business users would never take seriously. They were wrong. Within a few years, BlackBerry collapsed. Nokia, the world's largest phone manufacturer, completely missed the smartphone revolution. They dismissed the iPhone as too expensive. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. Nokia went from market leader to irrelevant in just a few years. The iPhone didn't just change the phone industry, it created entirely new industries. The App Store, which launched in 2008, created a platform for millions of developers to build businesses. Apps for everything from banking to dating to fitness became possible. The iPhone fundamentally changed how humans interact with technology. Before the iPhone, computers were things you sat down at a desk to use. After the iPhone, computers became something you carried everywhere, constantly connected. Social media exploded because of smartphones. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, none of these would exist without the iPhone. Uber and Lyft couldn't exist without smartphones with GPS. The entire gig economy was enabled by iPhone technology. Today, over 1.2 billion iPhones have been sold, generating over $2 trillion in revenue for Apple. The iPhone single-handedly made Apple the most valuable company in the world. But it almost didn't happen. If the presentation had crashed, if AT&T hadn't agreed to Apple's terms, if engineers hadn't worked through the night, we might be living in a very different world today. The iPhone's creation required vision, obsession, impossible demands, brilliant engineering, and a little bit of luck. It required Steve Jobs' willingness to risk everything on a product that barely worked when he first showed it to the world. So there you have it, the secret story of how Apple created the first iPhone. From barely working demos to world-changing impact, the iPhone wasn't inevitable. It was the result of incredible risk and a vision that nobody else could see. What's the most surprising part of the iPhone's creation story for you? Let me know in the comments. And here's a question. Do you think the iPhone would have succeeded without Steve Jobs? If you enjoyed this deep dive into tech history, smash that like button and subscribe to Buried Truth Project for more untold stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth is always deeper than the surface. I'll see you in the next one.